You are listening to Quarters and Barra. I am Glenn Quartermain, Chief Sports Reporter with the West Australian. With me is Adrian Barrich of Channel 7, Perth Football Club and West Coast Eagles fame. It's been a fairly big couple of days. We'll get onto that in a moment. We are brought to you by TABtouch. Got the touch? Download the TABtouch app today. Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. A lot to talk about, Barra, but before we do, we've got a very special guest with us, Tim Clarke, who's broken a significant story today on Brad Sheppard, who I'll read out the introduction to his story. Former West Coast defender Brad Sheppard is suing the AFL, the Eagles and two of the club's doctors for medical negligence after he was left with long-term concussion symptoms following his decorated football career. This is a significant development in this area of concussion.
It is, I think, and particularly in the Perth market, because we've heard, obviously, of class actions and other footballers, including West Australian footballers, sort of suing the league. But this is Brad Sheppard going out on his own with his legal team, obviously, and taking on legally the AFL, the West Coast Eagles, and significantly as well, has named two individual doctors that used to work with the Eagles as defendants in this case. And he is alleging civilly that he is owed damages and costs for the damage that was done to him physically during his time with the Eagles from 2009 onwards.
So I think the development here is that he's actually looking at the doctors. Now, we're not suggesting that there's any negligence, by the way. This will have to be proven in court.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so how did the doctors come into this?
Well, the doctors were obviously, as part of the Eagles setup, charged with the care and health and safety and maintenance of the players that were under their sort of medical umbrella. And now, with this civil suit that was filed in WA Supreme Court last week, naming them, I take that as to say, well, you personally were responsible for me, as well as the club and the league, and we allege that you let me down badly because I am now left with long-term, possibly lifelong symptoms from the concussions that I suffered. That means if this goes all the way to trial, and we don't know how long or whether that will happen, but what it will mean is that those doctors will be under some personal scrutiny as to what they did and the medical actions that they took, and that will then include presumably them having to hand over medical records that they've kept, scans that they've taken, emails that they've sent each other, emails that they've had from the club. All that material will become material in the case because it's important, if you want to try and prove medical negligence, that you have all that material, and them being sued personally would then put them under some sort of legal pressure to hand it all over to Brad's lawyers to see what they can make of it all.
It's interesting. So there's class actions being launched around Australia against the AFL, but this specifically at the AFL, the club and the doctors. So that's where there is a difference here, I think. And I guess there'll be players, well, I know there'll be players who'll be watching very carefully.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we know, Brad Sheppard was an amazing player, very well-known personality in Perth, very well-connected family in Perth, very well finance family in Perth, as I understand it. So he has the means to go and do this on his own, and he's hired a very experienced legal firm which specialises in personal injury and medical negligence, and so they will be well versed in the law. But this is, this is a case out of the box in terms of, taking on the whole league and the club and the two doctors. I mean, that's a hell of a case to run, and it will be, a hell of a case to watch going forward.
There's massive ramifications, no doubt about it. The two fellas, I know them well.
Yeah,
one
you would,
of them's
Barra, yeah.
kind of my doctor almost. I've been to many times, and I can't speak more highly of them. So that's just my own personal view. But I see Clarke, so he's suing for the result of negligence or a breach of contract.
And a breach of duty.
What is the breach of contract bit?
Well, I would suggest that when he signed a contract with the Eagles and to play, there would have to be some sort of agreement coming back towards him that, you know, when you suffer any injury or inconvenience, that as part of your contract, we will look after you properly. And I mean, it sounds very, you know, businessy, doesn't it? A breach of contract. And then the breach of duty is a sort of different arm of the same type of law, in that you had a duty to me. The writ that they filed is pretty skinny on detail at the moment. That's all it says, and it just names the parts of the law and the 4 defendants, and that's it. And the statement of claim, which comes much later down the track, which will set out the actual details and when the concussions occurred and the symptoms since, and you know what the ramifications of those have been. So a lot of water to pass under the bridge. But yeah, as you say, Barra, the breach of contract, I mean, that would go to the club and the league, you would imagine. And then, you know, the negligence, that part of it might be directed towards the medical staff. Although, as I say, this is all sort of surmising from experience of having covered other personal injury suits in the past.
It feels like a watershed for me, in that we're at the point in time where you don't play hurt. There was always an acceptance, and back when you played, Barra, there's always an acceptance that you just went out there and played hurt. But the body of evidence we've got now about concussion and the harm that it does, we've moved, we've shifted seismically. So I think,
but it's a choice thing too, isn't it? Who makes the decision?
But that's where we're at.
Do you choose to go out there, and does your contract say that if you're out on the ground, then you relinquish all these protections? I mean, it's going to be that sort of debate as well, isn't it?
Yeah. It still feels to me like the AFL is pulling against itself. I mean, on the one hand, it realises that this issue, legally, morally, physically, I mean, this is the biggest thing they're going to have to tackle in the next 5 to 10 years. But then you've got the traditionalists who's saying Isaac Heaney should not be wiped out for snotting a bloke behind the ball, and nor should he lose his chance of winning the Brownlow medal. But, I mean, the potential.
I think you resemble those comments, don't you?
No, I'll put my hand up and say I don't think you should be ineligible for the Brownlow anymore. I think it's more important to get it right in terms of protecting the head and being penalised for it. But I think the Brownlow muddies it a bit. I think you just be eligible. I don't think it really matters anymore. I think we got to get the protecting the head right. And you know what? We're moving in that right direction.
Oh, they're absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Isaac Rankin, 4 weeks. You know, that's just. That's par for the course now. In fact, that could become low end. I mean, you're talking about legal precedents, and they might have set the bar there as that's the minimum sentence you get for something like that going forward in tribunal terms, not in legal terms, obviously. So the AFL have given me a brief response today saying that they are aware of the matter and they will abide by the court's directive. Now, that wording itself is interesting to me. The Eagles have said they're not going to comment at all while it's before the courts. That's of course their right. But abide by the court's directive is an interesting wording right off the top of the very first thing they say about this case is that, okay, we'll be watching very carefully, and what a court decides then we might have to go along with. And that might set a precedent for them as well with all these other cases we think might be coming down the pipe as well.
Tim, we really appreciate your time and well done on breaking that story today.
Cheers, boys.
Barra, fair to say it's been a big couple of days. Probably one of the most important sort of decisions in the club's history, you would say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and it was really illuminating last night with Adam Simpson on Talking Footy. I was quite surprised when they said, because we shot it, so our people went down there, Channel 7 Perth, one of our cameramen, Simon, who's one of our guns, been in the Ukraine, everything else. He's huge on drones, just fantastic. Not that he put a drone up in the house, but mind you, could have put a drone up in Simo's house. Sensational there in City Beach. And
it is.
So we're in there and we're watching Simo, and the vision's coming in. We're watching him walking around the house, and Nikki's there. She's very comfortable, and he looks very, very relaxed. The dogs were there, and he was in his slippers. And mate, he must be in such a great place now that it's all over, that he's relieved. He's getting the just desserts financially, and basically can have months and months off and just plan whatever. I would suggest that he would be working for 7 or Fox, probably 7, because he's very close to James Brayshaw.
Yep.
From the North Melbourne days, James Brayshaw.
What do you think during the finals or something?
Yeah, I reckon he'll be an expert. I reckon living certainty he'll be an expert.
I'd like to see that.
And if the games are over, he'll certainly be working at Optus. He'll be at Optus on Sunday. So it's gone full circle from the bitterness of the end and some of the sort of awkwardness of the press conference and some of the media coverage to, oh, well, I'm out of the system now. I'm relieved. He's been at the club, so no dramas there. He'll rock up on Sunday. He'll go out to the ground.
So what do you think they're going to do?
He'll wave to people. So it'll be pre-match, so get there early. The game's, I think, 2:30. Make sure you get there by 2.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be done.
Yeah, and it's being handled as well as it could. I remember when Woosha went, he didn't do a presser.
Yep.
Remember we were chasing Woosha? Yeah. And I made the massive blue. This is half a funny story. I know people get the shits with me telling too many stories, but he got the bullet, right? And I'm at a athletics carnival with my kids, and I'm commentating at Subiaco Primary School, so I couldn't take the call. I'm like, shit. And I know he'd been sacked, and I knew I had to take it. And I'm halfway through calling a thing, and what Woosha does, he rings you back.
Oh, he rang you.
He rang me back.
Yeah.
He rings you back once.
Yeah.
If you don't answer,
that's it.
That's it. So I was ringing him from then till about 6 o'clock because he didn't front up to get an interview. So none of us, as you probably remember, and Ross Lyon was similar. When I say we,
Ross did his on the middle of an oval, didn't he?
And you know why that was? Is because one of our guys, Ray Raab, who's just retired after 52 years, one of our cameramen, one of the all-time greats, he knew where he lived. So he went round to his house and just put a camera up out the front of his house and started filming.
Forced him out.
And the kids came out and played, and he's filming the kids, and it was all in. This is how some people operate and in the media, and I'm not saying it's wrong or right or whatever, but it's sort of, his wife apparently said, Ross, for God's sake, go and talk to him and get him out of our bloody driveway. So Ross rang things up and he goes, you buggers. I go, I'll meet you down at the park, down on East Fremantle on the river there.
Yep.
So down near in Bicton, not far from the golf course. And were you there? We all headed down there.
I wasn't there that day, no.
And so Ross never fronted. What my point of the story is, Ross never fronted for the press conference. Woosha never fronted. So not only did Simo front, even though they didn't get the messaging quite right, did they? With the, you're going to coach the last game and all that sort of stuff.
I'm glad he cleared the air on Channel 7 last night, because about the Bailey Williams stuff, which in the end turned out to be pretty lighthearted, and also about the stuff with Don Pike about coaching one last game. And I got to say, Barra, my thoughts. I don't think you should change a coach mid-season. And when they did, I thought, well, you can coach one more game. But when 24 hours on, I thought, how can you possibly coach on Sunday? He's done the right. This is the right decision.
The way he explained it on telly last night was, I thought about it, and then I thought, hang on, I got to go to team selection meetings.
Front the media on Friday.
Yeah, but I think it was more about he's going to have to do the selection, and also he's going to have to decide, well, do I follow through with playing the kids? And do I drop Jack Darling and all that? Why would you want to do that? You handball that. This is a hospital handball.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, Scoey.
Well, Scoey's
Push,
got
mate,
the hospital.
Here you go, mate, over to you. It's Jack Darling. Hey, Scoey, Jack Darling playing.
So where do you think we're going? Do you expect mass change from that team tonight?
Oh, mate, how could you possibly tell? I mean, he's going to have to play a kid. He's going to have to play
Jack Williams.
Well, Jack Williams certainty, because he was sub last week. Starts Harry Edwards certainty because
he has to come in for
McGovern's on the Nullarbor.
I know. Hey, having just done that trip, that's an awesome drive. I know you'd be a bit uncomfortable with the ribs.
I saw Jai Cully at training today. Before we get into that stuff, I saw Jai Cully at training. He looks like he's playing.
Yep.
Oh, geez, a big bugger. And it's either going to be
Ryan Marriott.
It's either going to Marrick will come in, I reckon, and it's either going to be Clay Hall or
True
or Truey. Yeah. One of those two, I reckon, will play. So it is 5 changes.
Clay wasn't as good last week, but you'd like to see him get a run very soon.
One of them has to play.
Probably True this week.
But so what happened at training today was bloody funny. So I rock up, and the walkie-talkie, the senior coach's walkie-talkie gets handed to Jarrad.
Oh, the official handing over of the walkie-talkie.
He got the walkie-talkie, so he's the man because he's got the walkie-talkie.
Yeah, okay.
And he's talking to all the other blokes around the ground going, hey, Webby, get over there and do, so that's the power thing. It's
wow. The walkie-talkie.
The conch. It's like the conch.
Yeah, gotcha.
and then they went into the middle and did a big sort of roar. They all sort of, we're all together. We're on our way. And the post-Simo era begins. And it began.
Do you think, so let's not mess around. Obviously, clearly there was some text sent. We break that story in the West and there's been some murmurings, as there are at footy clubs, but clearly there are some players there who have got their noses out of joint and may now get the opportunity.
Mate, Gov was on radio on Nova, and he said that it was the right decision. Gov said it was the right decision. I love, but it's the right decision, and we'll move forward now. And now we can talk about McGovern driving himself to Adelaide first of all with a
that's a good effort.
Punctured lung and a broken rib.
You know what? If he's listening, I'm going to recommend the Nullarbor Roadhouse. Fantastic steak sandwich.
Mate, that's where he was. He says the Bay Marie was no good.
Oh, no.
Quarters, the Bay Marie.
The Bay Marie's horrible there. You order off the menu. I could have told him that.
Is there some giant something or other out the front of it or something?
It's huge. There's the original Nullarbor Roadhouse is out the front. It's like a little museum. And it's incredible. It's stark white.
That's where
sand everywhere. It feels like you're on another planet. But I waited 40 minutes for a steak sandwich, and it was awesome. A little tough, but very nice.
I'm going to text him, mate. Straight after this, I'm going to text him back and go, mate, Quarters said you should have done the steak sandwich.
At the Nullarbor Roadhouse.
The Bay Marie, no good.
Yeah, I'm going to talk myself up here. I drove from a place called Port Kenny, which is just north of Port Lincoln. I drove from there all the way into Norseman in one day. It's about 1,400 Ks or something. It's a hell of a drive, I can tell you. It's a fantastic part of the country.
Doing it with a punctured lung and a broken rib. And his wife is Maddie is an absolute saint. So clearly she's flown over there.
She has, yeah.
To Adelaide. And they've picked up a car. Frank Agostino, local businessman.
Yep.
Frank Agostino has lent him a car. I think it's an electric car. So they're trying to work out where the recharging things are.
Oh, no.
Apparently you can drive the Nullarbor in an electric car.
Geez, you want to be getting it right.
Yeah, but that's what he was saying. It had to.
Do you know Harry Taylor had a Holden Commodore that he had since 1989 or something, only got rid of it like about 2 years before he retired. But what he did was he drove from Geelong to Geraldton and drop the car off there because someone else wanted it in Gero. His dad flew over. They drove across together. Not once did he turn the air conditioning on because they wanted to save fuel, and not once did he turn the radio on. And I was talking to him about it. I said, why didn't you turn the radio? He goes, because we're talking the whole way. That's a long trip to be talking. You want to have a bit of music or a podcast or something. Anyway, hey, just the next thing is, so who do we think's in the box seat at this? I know it's early, mate, but who's in the box seat to coach the Eagles? Surely Dean
Cox is the prime target. There's no question about that. And I'll be throwing everything at him. He's in a brilliant position. How good would it be to be Dean Cox? Because you'd have two of the biggest clubs in the AFL fighting over you, basically. No, stay. Kirribilli agreement. Here, John Longmire, come in. Longy, come in. Listen, mate, we want to keep Coxie. How about, coach till end of 2025, then you hand over? Yeah, that's doable, I suppose, Yes, Coxie, what do you reckon about that? Maybe I want to go a bit earlier. The job's right there. I mean, he's got to come back. I feel like he has to come back. I saw what you wrote as well. I think Cox has to come back.
He's the number one. And I think Jamie Graham's in the chop up, and I absolutely think Ashley Hansen. I think they're the three, I guess, on the leaderboard. Yeah. Dean Cox certainly number one. And you do your due diligence. You make your calls to Chris Scott's manager. You make your calls to
Nathan Buckley.
Everyone. Sam Mitchell's manager. Find out what's going on. Nathan Buckley. Find out what's going on. But I think Dean Cox, and it's a good fit, like high footy IQ, ready to coach.
Club great.
Ticks a few boxes, doesn't it?
Has a Hungry Jack's franchise already.
Does he?
Yeah. Him and Jack Cowan are thick as thieves.
Hungry Jack. Where's his Hungry Jack?
Jack Cowan.
I know who Jack Cowan is, but where's Cox's? Oh, okay, fair enough.
But what I was going to say was that talking to the board.
Do you have a Hungry Jack's franchise?
No, bloody hell, mate. I tell you what. If Coxie's going there, if Cuzzy's going, I'm going with him.
Oh, yeah? Is Cuzzy going there?
I don't know what I could be.
Come on, you've got the inside drill.
I'll be trainer, water boy. I don't give a shit. I'll be there. But talking about Cox taking over, I think they're thinking, well, geez, we've got this huge payout on Simo. Okay, Cox is going to cost a bit. Can we get a really high-profile or strong assistant coach? And Ash Hansen is the obvious one, but will they have enough money to get him? I think they're thinking. Is that going to be possible? And there is a soft cap as well, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I think they'll spread the Simpson last year of it. Do you think they'll do that? Spread it over a couple of years, as they did with Alistair Clarkson at Hawthorn. So there's ways around it, and you never know. There may be an increase in that soft cap at the end of this year because it's probably time, isn't it?
And now I know we've got some some female legendary sports people in the room at the moment.
Yes,
with this podcast. So I'm
Royalty.
Yep.
Caitlin Bassett, a big shout out.
About to join the AFL, I believe, or Waffle even maybe. I'm going to make her a massive offer to play for Perth.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You're doing it now on air.
How good would she be in the ruck of full forward? Just
Full forward. I reckon she's full forward.
We're going to get on the next show and have a chat about
we
that.
do that. Yeah.
She could do anything. But the reason I'm happy that she's here is to hear that they did win this cross on Talking Footy with Simo. And I think you might have poo-pooed me a little bit on this.
Oh, I did.
Certainly Cousins did.
Oh.
He poo-pooed me. And I said, I reckon there's a silly chance that they might have a real close look at Daisy Pearce as the coach.
Yeah.
And
you think that's a possibility?
Is this on camera?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Look into that camera, mate.
Hello. What do you want me to say? You throwing me under a bus?
No. I'm asking for your. So I think
Daisy's not ready to coach an AFL team. Daisy's not ready to coach an AFL team. Yeah, okay.
I reckon Daisy Pearce would be a good replacement.
She needs to get some coaching experience.
Yeah, well, she starts in August.
Needs to get some coaching experience. As anyone
But
does.
Otherwise, you'd think it was a good suggestion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course you would. So anyway, Simo on Talking Footy, he said, whichever fella or female or woman takes over, and then they asked him, you mean Daisy Pearce? And he said, well, you need to look at these things. You know, at some stage there will be a female coach, I suspect.
Of course, down the track.
And she seems like the one that could be the answer.
Do you agree, though, you need a bit of time and experience to deal with a group of people first before you can aspire to coach at the highest level?
But she's been coaching elsewhere, hasn't she?
But this is at AFLW is the highest tier of the women's game.
Yeah.
And I think you need the stepping stone. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
I might be proven wrong.
So you're only discounting her based on experience rather than anything else,
100%.
not on her sex.
No, 100% on experience.
Okay, mate.
Yeah, is that okay?
Well done, mate. The other thing that happened yesterday that was half interesting was, so I rocked up Desi Headland. I said, Des, you know Desi Headland?
Number 1 draft pick, know him well. Yeah. Great fella.
I don't know if he rang you. He rings me up and goes, mate, we're having a launch at Kings Park. Alex Winwood.
Yes.
Is he turning pro? He's having
No. Alex has turned pro. So he's got a world title fight. Don't ask me the guy he's fighting but he's from Thailand and he's 24 wins, no losses. But this is his 5th professional fight, Alex Winwood. If he wins, it's a record in Australia because Jeff Fennick holds the record, first world title as a pro, 7 fights. So he'll have done it in 5 fights, Alex Winwood.
So he's doing like Lomachenko or something? Something as quick as that?
Let's not compare him. Lomachenko different. But
the same speed to world champion.
Yeah. And Winwood is, there's big raps on him. Now,
he's diminutive.
Yeah, Angelo Hyder, his trainer, and Danny Green, who's had a bit to do with him, he'll be in his corner in this title fight at Challenge Stadium.
They're all there. So
he reckons that pound for pound, like the size and everything, Danny said, I've never seen anyone punch like him.
Wow. So we rock up at Kings Park. Yep. Well, I'll go back a step. So the story was Des rings up and then I say, mate, Simo's just been sacked. We've got to find Simo. It's the day after he's been sacked. I need some players to be interviewed. Can you say something about Simo maybe? That'll help me get a camera there for you. And he's going, oh, you've got to get here, Barra. This is massive. I'm going to Kalgoorlie. You've got to, Barra, don't, please. And I said, and he goes, I'll tell you, I'll tell you something. Liam Ryan's coming. Well,
there was another one who was there too. Harley was there.
Yeah, he didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
He was.
I could have told you that. I knew that the night before.
How come you weren't there then?
Because I had another engagement.
Oh, something more important than Harley Reid the day after the coach had been sacked.
I had a meeting. I wasn't working and I had a meeting I had to attend.
I didn't see any of your journos there.
Well,
were they ducking and diving for some reason, were they?
I gave them plenty.
Where was Mitchie?
I gave them plenty of runway, mate. And also I booked in a photographer so don't get into me.
Mate,
we were up there.
I doorstopped.
And we knew you were there.
I doorstopped Liam Ryan.
Yeah? What did he say?
And he didn't want to talk. But because it was me, he did. And he gave me a nice little interview. Okay. I'm not blowing my own tyres. I'm just pumping my own tyres up. I'm just saying that because I knew him.
You're overinflated.
No doubt if you were there, you would have got him as well, mate.
Yeah.
How are Mitchie? So anyway, so I rock up and I nail him. And then I'm sort of going around the back there, Fraser's.
I know.
Because they went inside because it was windy. Mm-hmm. Instead of having the backdrop of Kings Park over the city, they went inside. And Greenie turns up. Greenie, how are you? You know, Greenie, world's best bloke. And, you know, all the other lunatics are there, and Kickety was there. And then in Wilkes Harley Reid, I'm thinking, but I had to go, see. I had to go back and do some work because I was on my own. Ryan's in Bali. So I'm going, I better go back. I've got Liam Ryan. I'm sweet. And then I hear from our other journo, Jamie, that Harley's. I said, mate, forget about the press conference. Just get Harley, just will you?
Anyway,
so Harley wouldn't talk.
Okay.
And he was asked as well about what happened at the press conference. You know, when Simo walked in. And
I'm glad that Simo clarified all of that.
And it was about a moustache. It was about Bailey Williams growing a mo. It wasn't anything to do with chipping Bailey Williams about being the leak or the bloke doing the text messages, right?
Yep.
We're clarifying that. Is that...
That's what he... Yes.
Now, have you yet got round to asking the sports editor who the people were?
I have. I have finally got round to it. He won't divulge. He's a good journo. He says, I cannot divulge my sources.
Are you telling me?
You know all about that. You can't divulge your sources.
Mate. She would know. Caitlin, do you know Caitlin?
No, we don't know. He won't divulge his sources. He won't divulge his sources.
She reckons she doesn't. You guys
I don't know a clue. Hey, how about here's a good idea. Let's pick some winners, but before we do, let's hear from Tim Walker.
Mate.
Shorty's tips.
Well, Shorty's up in Bali having a great time, but we're joined by an absolute gun in Tim Walker. How are you, Tim?
Going very well, thanks, Quarters.
Hey, Lockie Neal, now, he doesn't poll the twos and ones, he polls the threes. So with Brisbane's form, do you reckon, are we looking at a triple Brownlow medalist here?
He was terrific last week against Adelaide. He really set the tone for the Lions early doors, and they've continued their winning ways, obviously, against the Crows. He's now $13 to win the Brownlow medal. The Lions have won more than their share of games over the last 2 months, and I think they'll be winning their share over the last 6 or 7 weeks of the season. So he's into $13 now and is the heater for this week.
Ooh, wait and see what happens here. Collingwood, decimated by injury. I think Myercheck, when I saw him leave the field last week with that torn pec, I thought, this is done. What do the odds suggest?
Yeah, they're the cooler this week. So they're lost to the Bombers. They're out to $15 now to win the premiership again this year, ahead of a big game against the Cats tomorrow night.
Who's your hot punt?
I'll take Carlton to beat the Western Bulldogs, bounce back there. I think Essendon will be able to beat Melbourne, and GWS to cover the line of 24.5 against the Tigers. That's paying $4.27 this week.
Had to feel sorry for my boys last week. And Mitch Lewis, first game back after injury, does the knee. Really, really sad for him. I think he's, 25, so he's still got a bit of a future. Now, the Hawks, Launceston, hard to beat, mate.
They certainly are, but the punters are just thinking that if ever they're going to get beaten, it might be this week against the red-hot Fremantle Dockers. The Hawks are now out to $2.08 to get their 9th win of the season.
Well, they did beat him there in 2021, so recency bias. So let's see what happens there. Player to watch this week. I love Jake Melksham's game last week, back from an ACL and really contributed.
And he hit the scoreboard and he gave their forward line a bit of a different mix. I thought he was terrific, and I think $2.40 for him to kick 2 or more goals against the Bombers this week looks appealing as well.
Thanks, mate. See you next week.
We certainly will. Look forward to it.
Righto, Barra. Let's roll into some picks, mate. And
Got
Friday,
out of jail there, mate.
Friday night, MCG, 5:40 p.m. Collingwood, $2.10. Geelong, $1.74. Ravaged by injury, the Magpies. Brodie Myercheck out with that torn pec. I believe Darcy Cameron and Jeremy Howe have passed sort of fitness tests at this point. Isaac Quain has a chance to come back in. The moment I saw Myercheck go out last week, I thought, that's the fork in you, you're done. And Geelong starting to come home, a bit of a wet sail. Like Tom Stewart's move into the midfield, I think is a very important move. So I'm picking the Cats to win this one, Barra. I think momentum is with them, and I think Collingwood, they're just weighed too heavily down now, I think, by injury.
You're making your tip based on Myercheck being out?
I reckon
But
Collingwood...
if Jamie Elliott plays, you feel differently?
No, I don't. I think they were just hanging on, Collingwood, and I just reckon it's tipped them over the edge now. I don't think they can certainly play finals, but I think it's in jeopardy.
Yeah, I think you're right. I reckon it might be the Cats, Tomorrow night, MCG, they make a statement. Collingwood teetering, fall over a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
The Cats.
Saturday, 11:45 a.m, Sydney, $1.06, North Melbourne, $9. Good to see North Melbourne get on the winners board. Here's one, Barra. Sydney, just wake up. They're a bit like Freo were the last couple of years. Since round 10, they've been outscored by 70 points in first quarters. They're ranked last for first quarters. So I think North Melbourne will be aware of that. Wardlaw is a chance to come back in through concussion protocols. Sydney will welcome back Callum Mills, so he comes back for his first game from that long injury, from that mishap in the preseason. Luke Parker has served his suspension, so whether he comes back through the VFL or the AFL.
But I reckon, you know what?
Yep.
If Isaac Heaney doesn't win tonight, is he up tonight?
He's up tonight, or late this afternoon, about 3 o'clock our time.
So if he doesn't win at the appeals tribunal, then I reckon maybe Luke Parker comes in and Callum Mills.
Yep.
Like Callum Mills might be the cover. Yeah, tricky one. And what do you think about Isaac Heaney? I'm staggered that they still nailed him.
You know my thoughts on the Brownlow eligibility. We talked about it
You want
earlier.
it to be best,
I think
not best and fairest.
I think you should still be eligible no matter how many. People call for a threshold, so whether that's 1 or 2 weeks. I just think if you're suspended, you're still eligible. If you've missed 4 weeks, you're not going to win it anyway. So,
But you're like Tim Watson, aren't you? You say it now should be a best player award, not a best and fairest.
I do.
Just want to make that clear. Well, give me clear air. So you want a best player award, not a best and fairest anymore.
I think the landscape's changed so much. What you get a week for now, you would not have got a week for back in the day. So I just think we need to take that into account. I picked Sydney in this game, mate. I think. Oh, and good luck to Sheldrick too. He's coming back through the VFL this week. He's been out WA boys.
Young Sheldrick.
Yeah, good luck to him.
Dom's his dad, great fella.
I'm picking Sydney. You?
Yep. Sydney for me.
Now, Barra, do you know what happiness insurance is?
No, I don't actually, mate.
The happiness insurance. Okay, well, I'm
It's
about
not
to
gonna
take.
be rude, is it?
I'm about to. No, I'm about
I've heard
to
of a
take.
happy ending.
I'm about to take out some happiness insurance, which is a very different thing, Barra. So at UTAS Tasmania.
That's what Simo didn't get.
That's good. Okay, UTAS Stadium in Launceston, Saturday, 11:45 a.m. Hawthorn, $2.08.
Fairy tale.
Fremantle, $1.75. So some big swings here for Hawthorn. Mitch Lewis out, so felt really sorry for Mitch. First game back, does his ACL, so he's out for the season. Won't be back till this point next year. Question marks over Sicily, and my mail, Barra, is that he will play. That's just some little quiet mail that he will play this week. Jack Ginnivan, I don't think is going to. I think with Cal Shadir, they'll probably look to bring him back in if he can get over those ribs, if his ribs aren't too sore. So I think they need him back in there. But the point with Mitch Lewis being out, is there really a point in risking Alex Pearce this week, in your opinion? You can play with those arm guards on, but what's the point? Do you give him another week out just to make sure?
Have you seen the purple arm guard? He's got the purple arm guard now. I thought that was pretty cool. But you're right. If it wasn't Tasmania, he probably wouldn't even be pushing for it.
Because it's his home state, of
He
course.
loves the ones to get down there, yeah.
So we're expecting Josh Draper to recover from that groin injury and play?
Yep. And Walker comes back as well, probably.
Okay, but Sean Darcy is out with concussion. So
do they play Voss, play an extra forward rather than Reedy the ruckman? That's out of the way I'd go, that's for sure.
So you've got Luke Jackson coming up against the former Docker in Lloyd Mead. That's going to be an interesting
Good
clash
luck
too.
to Meekie.
So the happiness insurance I'm taking out is I'm actually going to go with Freo, who won here in 2021.
They haven't
They've
got
got
a great
good recent record against Hawthorn, though. Match up well against
They've
Hawthorn.
only won twice in Tasmania in 14 attempts or something.
So why can't it be 3?
Yeah.
Happiness insurance, mate. If they win and Hawthorn lose, I get something out of the day.
You got a something each ways.
That's right.
Okay, got it.
So I'm picking the Dockers to win this one.
Yeah, I'll go the Dockers too.
And Hawthorn also, post-clearance last week wasn't so good. I just feel that, it's only one game of evidence, but I'm not sure if they're not just going to have a little bit of a dip now, the Hawks. So anyway, Fremantle for me and Fremantle for you. Marvel Stadium, Saturday, 2:35 p.m. Western Bulldogs, $2.75. Carlton, $1.45. Carlton, incredible loss last week, really, given how far they were up at quarter time. Tom De Koning, we expect, will be pushing hard to play with an ankle injury. Jacob Wiedering also a chance with his quad strain. If Tom De Koning doesn't, you can expect Pitnet to come into that side to take on English. No Liam Jones has got a medial. So I think that's a big out for them.
And no Norton?
Norton as well, and O'Connell under concussion protocol. So I'm going to pick the Blues to bounce back here, I think.
The schizophrenic Bulldogs versus the Blues. It's going to be the Blues. It's got to be the Blues. Marvel Stadium. No Norton. No Liam Jones. Yeah, I'm going the Blues.
Okay, and congratulations to Patrick Cripps, who's bringing up game number 200 this week. Having a terrific season, every chance to win another Brownlow too. Adelaide Oval, Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Adelaide Crows $1.48. St Kilda $2.65. Adelaide without Isaac Rankine, out with that suspension. Hinge is also out with an adductor. Windhagen, a really big out for St Kilda with that hamstring injury. Does play the run with role really well. No Caminiti. What I did like about them last week, Barra, with no King, was their spread of goal kickers. I thought they had a 3 or 4 there. Higgins, Membry. They weren't reliant so much on targeting King all the time. So I think that's helped them. But you just don't know who's going to turn up.
No, and it's saying here that Riley Thilthorpe.
Yep, Thilthorpe.
Thilthorpe.
It's hard to say that one.
Riley Thilthorpe might come back.
So when was he taken,
handy.
2 or 3? So really highly touted first-round draft pick who hasn't been able to fight his way back into that side, in a side that's really not been all that flash. So good player, but yet to prove himself. So I'm picking the Adelaide at home. I can't pick St Kilda on the road trip.
Me too. Crows by 10.
Okay, 10 what?
10 points.
Okay. MCG, Saturday night, 5:30 p.m. Melbourne, $2.45. Essendon, $1.55. Well, we know the big out in this game, and it swings it for me. No Max Gawn, I think, is too big an ask to beat Melbourne at the MCG on Saturday night. Melksham, I did like the look of that Melbourne forward line with Melksham back in there, and it was good to see coming back off the ACL and kicking 2 goals against the Eagles. The Eagles just didn't turn up in the first quarter, and after that point, I don't think Melbourne were all that flash last week, so not a lot of confidence in them at the moment, even though I picked them to win the flag in the preseason. But I'm picking Essendon in this one. You?
Yeah, I think so. I think Essendon, they still worry me with their schizophrenic nature, but they're hanging in there.
Pretty good injury
list. This will
list.
be a big statement.
Pretty good injury list, Essendon. They haven't got a lot, so you're going along nicely in that area. Now, Sunday, 11:10 a.m, People First Stadium, let's call it Carrara. Gold Coast Suns, $1.68. Port Adelaide, $2.20. Radaglia, and who's had a hamstring, and Burton with a foot. Chances, they train Tuesday, so the expectation is they'll come in. Big out for Gold Coast, Tuke Miller, who's out for a month, and also Sam Day, who's got a foot injury, so he's 4 to 6 weeks. They're 2 really big outs. Question here, Suns are, like, the metrics at home and away are so vastly different. You can't not pick them at home. What did you think of Hardwick's spray after the game?
Well, there's 2 things there. I thought he was exactly spot on. 2, no sympathy because Stewie took Stewie Jew's job, so he's in Stewie Jew's exact situation, so bad luck, that's what happens. But will he swing the axe as well? I think Witts is still not available, so that's still missing a massive player. Georgiada's got a week too, didn't he? So Port lose him. But I feel like the Suns will bounce back, but it'll be toit, very toit.
Gold Coast, for all that was said when Bluey McKenna was their inaugural coach.
Yeah,
when
Bluey, how stiff was he? Bluey and Dewey, both of them, stiff.
Bluey did a remarkable job. If Ablett wasn't injured, they'd probably play finals under Bluey.
And so Damien Hardwick's finding out about it now. That's why there's no sympathy.
Yeah, interesting his complaints about travel too. Geez, you learn pretty quickly, don't you? We used to complain about
memories.
Going from the MC
These coaches, mate,
Hunt Road down to Marvel.
They rewrite history.
They do.
Don't they?
Sunday, 1:20 p.m. Now, this is a game I'm intrigued with. Richmond, $4. Giants, $1.25. Prestia and Martin chances to come into that side. Lynch still out. Got a Giants missing Kelly and Sam Taylor. Great win to them. Great comeback win by them against Carlton last week. I'm going to pick the Giants here, but I reckon the Richmond that I saw last week was a pretty impressive effort. I know they got flogged by nearly 10, but I thought they were their want and desire. I thought it was really good for most part of 4 quarters. So they're not without a chance in this game, particularly now. I think it's the first time they're 18th in their club history, Barra. First time they've ever been 18th in their club history.
Wow.
Because they've obviously...
Yeah. So are they going to win the spoon, you reckon, then?
Well, North's come good. I mean,
no one's going to tip Richmond, by the way. I know
I'm picking the Giants.
Trying to make this interesting, or what's going on?
I'm trying to do what you guys do on Channel 7 on a Friday night.
Mate.
Come on.
We're sincere.
30 points in the game with a minute to go. And it's, hang on, there's a comeback here. So you're picking the Giants?
Yeah.
Okay. Optus Stadium, Sunday, 2:40 p.m. West Coast, $4.50. Brisbane Lions, $1.20. Starcevic out under the concussion protocols. We know that. What happens to the Eagles? Flynn possibly available from that ankle injury. He'll be tested. We know McGovern's out with that. Well, he's out with a rib injury driving across the Nullarbor. Petrocelli a chance to come in with a hammy. Sheed also a test from a hammy. What are we expecting this week from the Eagles with a new coach in Jarrad Schofield? We've already spoken about whether there'll be big selection changes. We'll wait and see about that. But what are you expecting from the Eagles?
I reckon they will have a crack because that's what happens when you're a player and a coach gets sacked. You think, oh, well, here we go. It's now everybody's equal again. You know, you can actually force your way into the team. Is that how you felt? And Schofield, because at selection, Schofield might have been going, mate, we're going to play Clay Hall. I've been talking to Derek, his dad. He's travelling fantastically. I watched him play for the Eagles waffle team. He's got to come in against Peel Thunder, and Simo might have been overruling him. So now we'll see who Schofield. Hopefully, he's got the final say. Who Schofield thinks is any good because he's doing an audition himself. So he'll want to win games, hoping maybe that he can sneak in and, pinch the job.
Do you think we'll see any discerning change in the way they play, given the evidence of him as a coach with Subiaco?
Too hard in terms of the actual style of play, but in terms of selections and rotations and who becomes the sub and who gets taken off at what time,
that's where the change will be.
Yeah, because he's got the power. He's got the walkie-talkie, mate. He's got the walkie-talkie. He's got the, I'm the man.
Yeah.
Get out there and drag off, whoever it is.
So who are you picking? I'm picking the Lions to win this game, having said all that. You? By the way, first time they've ever played the Eagles at Optus.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So the Eagles have never lost to them at Optus?
No, never.
That's a good stat.
Yeah, it's a good start, isn't it? It's a good start.
Jeez, if they were to win,
what message does it send if they win?
If I'm Simo, I'm going, you halfback flankers. And he'd be going, why didn't I take that one more game? But then maybe they wouldn't have lifted. Yeah, they can't possibly win. But I hope it's nice for Simo out there. You don't want to see him get spifflicated either, do you?
No, you don't.
Yeah.
No. It's been would have been a draining
chance that could happen.
Well, it would be a draining week for the players. I mean, you've been at a club when there's been a coaching changeover, but not mid-season one. It was the end of season, wasn't it? It was
but that's your
Ron Alexander through to Toddy.
Yeah, that is. I had a couple. Yeah, that's your mentality. I know I'm allowed to talk about old stories, but that's your mentality when the coach gets. Well, his conjecture.
So did you try and suck
like
up?
Us to say
did you try and suck up?
Well,
you couldn't with Toddy, could you?
With Toddy, I was Gonski already for those old stories we've told already.
Yeah.
But with Alexander, so Toddy then in Malthouse was a clean slate. So this bloke comes from Victoria. We're doing this, boys. We're going to train.
He gave you his
a
100-point checklist about what to do with your uniform.
The one percenters. The 1%ers. We're alled to talk about the 1%ers?
No, we haven't got time for that.
No time for the 1%ers? Next time.
Tying your shoelace.
Any emails
on the right.
about more old stories?
Yeah, we'll get there in a minute. Yeah, there actually might be. And now it's time for this, Barra.
Saddle up your camel. It's time for the Thirsty Camel mailbag.
And thank you to our long-time sponsor, Thirsty Camel. This week's special, Jack Daniels and Cola, 4.8%, only $54.99 for a 10-pack. We have a $50 gift voucher to give away thanks to Thirsty Camel. Get your questions in for next week to Quarters and Barra at wanews.com.au, and please keep them short. There's some very long ones coming in. I just don't have time to read them out.
I've got a couple of things for you here, mate.
Go for it, mate.
Here's my mouth guard. Ready?
Yeah.
Put your mouth guard in.
Okay.
And there's a helmet. Where's that helmet? Josh, bring that helmet, mate. It's time for the emails.
Here we go.
I'm tipping there might be a few emails. Not sure what it'll be about, but I reckon there'll be a few.
So let's get these out of the way.
Put the helmet on.
Okay, it's been a big couple of days. We did have a front page that provoked a lot of discussion around the country. This one from Mark from Q. Hi, G-Man and Quarters.
I'm still the G-Man.
Yeah. Adam Simpson to the media. You guys
from...
can be cruel sometimes, really. I mean, you've got to keep that in check because we're human and we have families. So you want more access to our players. Treat them with a bit more respect. So who was Adam Simpson talking about? Was it fair? Does the WA media need to have a look at itself? That was Mark. I'll keep going. This one from Andrew.
Can I just say on that, not to distract or I certainly I will admit to reflecting on perhaps, what was being said. I've been delving into my conscience to see whether I've been being a good journalist and doing the things the right way and just trying to play it straight. And I felt like I did, but, it did make me reflect. I don't know about you, but it made me reflect.
Okay, I thought it was pretty poor to call out a journalist, and it was Mitchell Woodcock. I thought it was pretty poor to call him out. Having said that, we have put our bylines to stories.
But I don't think it wasn't just Mitch he was talking about. He said the media.
No, but he singled him out.
I
didn't like that.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Yeah, okay. But what about the media bit?
But the media in itself, let's get through a few others first.
Oh, okay.
But I will
There's
say...
a few more, is there?
Yeah, there's a couple more.
Really?
And this one's from Andrew from Iceland, Barra. So we have gone
you have
international.
to be pissed off if you email from Iceland.
Yeah, I'd say pissed off and very cold at the same time. I am an avid West Coast Eagles supporter who now lives in Iceland. I'm writing to comment on the front page of the West Australian. See you, Simo. Can you get any more disrespectful? No wonder he gave you blokes a clip at the presser, rightly so. Last 10 years' record includes making the finals 6 years, including 2 grand finals and 1 premiership. Imagine if all the problems at the club were just down to Simo. He's working many poor cards dealt to him by others in the administration. See ya. How about thank you with a photo of him holding the cup? Well, in fact, that's what we did today, 24 hours after it. They'd be well within their rights to give you lot a blanket media ban. Do better, Andrew from Ireland. Thanks for your point, Andrew. This one from Disgruntled. In fact, his name is Luke. Dear Quarters and Barra, I listened to your insightful conversation about Simo's departure on Tuesday's episode and felt an underlying appreciation and thanks for what Simpson has done for the club across his entire tenure. What then transpired on Wednesday's front page of the West was an absolute disgrace. I would be embarrassed to be associated with the paper. You did talk about the clip Simpson gave on the way out, and I agree journalists have every right to hold the club and players to account on performance. The clip, I feel, was in relation to the outrageous headlines and farcical images which have made the paper a complete laughingstock over the past 18 months. How about the West holding itself to account? Alienating the Eagles membership base and annoying Fremantle's membership base with the over-the-top Harley coverage is not smart. Maybe when your sports editor graduates, someone can educate him. I will be boycotting the West from now on and hope the 100,000 plus Eagles also follow. So that's from Disgruntled Luke. So Luke definitely made his feelings felt there. And finally, this one from the Nuffington Post, Barra.
Hang on, they're funny guys.
Yeah, Quarters, the front page of your paper.
No humour in this one?
No name, just Nuffington.
No humour?
No. See you, Simo. Well, highlighting his torturous and embarrassing stretch of losses in big red L's. Do you think this was the right message to send after he has just been sacked? Surely you would just want to thank him for his 11 years of service to West Coast and WA footy, including a premiership and 2 grand finals. I get coaches need to be held to account, but the timing felt disrespectful to one of West Coast's greatest coaches. A real kick in the guts to him and his family after he's just lost his job. That was from Nuffington. So don't let it be said, Barra, that we don't read out our angry mail or our mail that's criticising us. All I will say about it is, look, I thought it was unnecessary to single the journo out, but we do put our bylines on stories. We do make some, we have opinions. So we're big boys and girls, and we can also cop what comes our way. I think we do have a job to play in holding the club to account, and you can't deny the performances over the best part of 3 years have been horrendous. And that's what we've done. We've copped some clips over the last couple of days. Whether you agree on the front page or not, now, Barry, you know that we have no bearing on what goes on the front page, but whether you agree or not, I will defend our right to hold that club to account because I think they've made some really bad decisions. And as I wrote in my analysis, I think this decision came 12 months too late, and I think the board has a lot to answer for extending Adam's contract. Now, having said all that, what a great coach he's been for the club. I mean, they've 2 grand final in his second season at the club, and it's bloody hard to get to them from Perth, and a premiership in 2018. So I think once the dust settles a bit and we get through this period, I think that Adam will be remembered. Yeah, there'll be an association of the last 3 years, how badly.
His legacy's vast and enormous and magnificent. And 2018 flag.
It is.
You can't go past that.
No, you can't.
And when someone goes, normally you do eulogise them, don't you? I mean, you really talk about their good points, and I think people expect that, don't they? So maybe that's where we're at the moment. Where I was interested was Simo on Talking Footy revealed that when Nisbet went, the discussion about when he was going started then. Okay, so they said, right.
I don't really agree. I think there was a lot of speculation last year as well about Adams.
Do you want me to tell you what he said?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Come on.
So what he said, so you can say he's a liar if you want, but
I'm not saying that.
What he said was, after you've done that beautiful spiel, what he said is what happened was, okay, so Nisbet, such a massive force in the club and all the rest of it, had to go, was going. They decided he was going. and it wouldn't be good to have him go and Simpson go at the same time. And he used the word staggered. So we decided to stagger it. And I sort of went along with that. I said, yeah, I've got the energy to go on. I'm happy to do that. And I don't know where it'll end, but I will try to get to the end of my contract. And as it turned out, he only made it sort of partway through this first year, didn't he? And he had another year to go.
Well, 2/3 of the way through.
2/3 of the way through, 7 games to go.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought, he's done. He's cooked. He's, done it. He's run his race. And he probably agreed. So in some ways it was by mutual consent. In other ways, I guess he lost his job. But he did reveal, and I was staggered by that was that discussion.
You were staggered by the stagger.
No, staggered that he mentioned the stagger, exactly, because that was the discussion when Nizzy went, mate, when are you going? You're going to go at some stage. Can you go the journey? Yeah, I can go the journey. Let me have a crack. It's better for the club stability wise. I'm more experienced and all those sort of reasons they kept him on. And then until it wasn't good enough, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's obviously what happened. But congratulations, you've done something that no one's ever been able to do.
What's that, mate?
You've united the Freo and Eagles fan base.
Is that right?
Well done, mate.
Well,
I've never seen that happen before.
Well, there you go, mate. Now, BKC from Gero writes, "Hi, guys. I'm writing this after hearing last Thursday's pod while running on a treadmill in Athens, Greece. We are international.
Oh, my God.
Barra, in the words of In Excess, don't change a thing. I'm not sure how old Matty is, but as a 52-year-old, I vividly remember the glory days of the 90s and love the old stories mixed in with all the current news. Stick to your guns, boys."
Yes.
That's
I've had a lot
Gero.
of feedback from people
Have
saying, I'll read you a couple. Sorry, what was the reference to Maddie? Is that my daughter, Maddie, or?
I'm not sure. No, he's the guy who wrote in last week. Now, there's another one. Do you want to hear the other?
Matty.
Do you want to hear the other one?
Enunciate, will you? Yes, I do, mate.
Sorry, you're the newsreader.
I know.
I'm just a journalist, mate.
Give me a few of those Euro names. Who was the kid, the 16-year-old who scored the goal from Spain?
You tell me, who?
I can't remember, actually. I did say it right.
Gary writes, "Barra, please don't change who you are and how you present on the podcast.
Don't go changing.
I thoroughly enjoy listening to your stories, and I don't think for one moment you talk about them too much. You bring a BOFA. Do you know what that is?
No.
Breath of fresh air to
Lovely.
the podcast, and I hope you don't alter your approach in any way. That's regards, Gary, and he throws the old Carpe Diem in there at the
Carpe
end too.
Demon.
Yeah, and last one, this one, hey fellas, a lot of conversation about Simpson's replacement has centred on Dean Cox being the ideal candidate. Though currently untried, he will likely be a great head coach at some point when given the opportunity. This time last year, though, Cox ruled himself out of returning to West Coast on the basis he was the likely coach in waiting at Sydney. What about going all in for John Longmire? He's exactly what West Coast need. He's an accomplished coach with experience developing a young squad, a driver of a strong winning culture, experience with a travelling non-Victorian team, and he's probably coming to the end of a long stint with his current club. It is awkward timing for Sydney given their current successes, but they must also be looking to the next phase of their club's future and who will be coaching in it. Dean Cox would be great for West Coast, but Longmire would be ideal. Cheers, Casey.
Mate,
what do you think about that one?
That's not a silly idea. Hey, I tell you what, I'm a bit worried, though, if Cox gets the job.
Why?
He's a headline writer's gift.
Yeah.
And I just don't know where.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Where are you going to go with that? Hey, listen, here's one of the texts. Sorry, mate. And someone keeps saying that I'm trying to have a go at you and stuff. We are friends, right?
Yeah,
we are close friends.
Yeah.
So whoever's thinking that we're not.
Sometimes your ears are painted on, but yeah, that's fine.
Mate, so are yours,
Yeah,
mate.
yeah.
And I got someone to actually record and see who speaks the most generally, and you speak 60% of the time.
No, I don't.
You do, mate. 60%. Except for that one time I did that 25-minute story about Damien Drum. Apparently that's the only time I cracked 50%.
Jeez.
Now,
That
Lucas.
was a long story, bro.
Lucas sent me this text.
Yeah.
Mate, listening to the podcast, you not only need to continue the old war stories, you should actually offer more of them. A few of the Super League stories, the Western Reds, roll them out as well. The time you decked Chock Mundine. Have you heard that one?
Yes, I've heard that one.
Has this audience heard that one?
Oh, they'll tell them.
No, I'm not telling them, mate. Not until I get the okay from a few more emails.
Okay.
And the other story about the Manly forward who told you to go and rest in the forward pocket
Is
when
that
he
right?
smashed you.
Is that right? The Manly, the Sea Eagles.
Cement. Who was Cement? Nicknamed Cement.
Was Blocker Roach? Was
No, the other guy, Gillespie.
Oh,
Dave
yeah, yeah.
Gillespie
Yeah, yeah.
smashed me and he goes, why don't you go and rest in the forward pocket? Because there is no forward pocket, by
Of
the way.
course. Hey, did you? How much harder?
Anyway, finish with I love that shit.
How much harder do those boys hit than the AFL
Oh,
players?
mate, please. Am I allowed to talk about this? Hey, we should get a siren from when I'm allowed to talk about
Yeah.
old crap.
Yeah. Okay.
Like an old, what's an old person's
Let's
song?
work on that.
Well, let's is
let's-
that where you
Hey.
start spreading the news?
Something like that.
And,
We'll
that's,
work
and,
on
then,
that.
and so Sinatra comes out. When you hear Sinatra, dun, dun,
Are you comparing
dun,
yourself
dun,
to
dun.
Frank Sinatra?
Well, what's his nickname? Old Blue Eyes.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, I got blue eyes.
Yeah.
That's when I'm allowed to tell an old story. How about that?
Yeah. Are
Yeah.
you Frank
Let's put it in a-
Sinatra,
let's
or are
put
you-
it in a
Or are
segment.
you just a washed-up karaoke singer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's put it in a segment though.
So-
and then you can tune out, you bastards, if you don't want to hear.
So who wins out? Who's got our?
Get nicked.
Who's winning it? Who's winning it?
I don't know, mate. One of those people that spifflicated you.
I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm going to
Give us your best Cox
So
headline.
this week goes to Gary, the Carpe Diem guy, Gary, who said that you were
Seize
a
the day.
BOFA, breath of fresh
Yeah.
air. So Gary, you are our winner
He
of this
seized
week's
the day.
Thirsty Camel $50 gift voucher. Please send your details into quartersandbarra at wanews.com.au. You have been listening to Quarters and Barra, mainly Barra, and a little bit me.
60% you.
We
And
are-
can I just apologise for being off my head? Because I've been working on my own almost for 5 days, and Adam Simpson has stepped down, and Ryan Daniels is in Bali.
You're a bit tired?
And Anna's on lead off today, and I'm on my own,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm doing lead stories. So if there's anything that did appear, it was a 5-minute story. In television, that's like 6 days.
It is.
Okay, so just if I appear off my
This
nut,
is like your
and
outlet.
if I'm saying stuff that doesn't make sense, or if I'm crossing the line, and Simo, I include you in this, if you think I've crossed the line, I was very busy. Because he's filthy on me for something.
We have been brought to you by TABtouch. Got the touch? Download the TABtouch app today. Chances are you're about
You know
to
what I
lose
mean,
for
though,
free
don't you?
and confidential support. Visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Thank you, Barra. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being patient. We'll talk to you again on Tuesday.